Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. J, and I'm happy to be here with our special guest today, Chef Chris. We're going to learn about not only his career, but a little bit of his pathway through life to where he is today. But, Chef, I don't want to give a lot away, so could you just pleasure us in letting us know who you are and what are some of your jobs? Because I know you got a lot going on, my friend.
Yeah, so my name is Chef Chris Galarza. I'm the founder and culinary sustainability consultant of Forward Dining Solutions. The company was founded in 2019 because there has been a growing movement to electrify kitchens to go towards more cleaner ways of cooking.
Mhm.
And I figured, since I have that experience, I should be able to help people get there. So I'm a podcaster, a speaker, a writer, a chef, and now I'm the leading expert in culinary or in kitchen electrification.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you mentioned that. We bring that up a lot due to climate change and that the need to switch to electric and then have renewable resources creating that electric will be so important to lower our carbon footprint. So thank you for all the work already that you're doing with that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So you mentioned a couple of things. You're doing that with electrification of kitchen podcasting and that. Could you talk us like what would a day in the life of Chef Chris look like so that we can get a little bit of a glimpse of what your job entails and what it's like?
Right. So right now, we're in the building phase of the company. Since we've taken this opportunity of COVID to kind of work on all the stuff on the back end, so it's pretty boring right now. But right now, I wake up early, make breakfast for my wife and I. Then I come down to the office and I just start plugging away on my list. So right now we're working on P&L statements. We're working on all the boring stuff on the back end, while also doing research for content for the podcast. Also working on recipes and things like that for when it comes time to start building these restaurants, right? These kitchens, and making connections. Like a lot of what we do is about making connections, like not just with food, but also interpersonal connections. It's very important. Just meeting people and just building that boring structure.
Sure, understood. It doesn't sound boring to me. I geek out on anything that's
Oh,
going
my
to
man.
push the world forward. Speaking of that, I'm a big cook, but I've only cooked on natural gas.
Right.
So, is there going to be a difference in prepping culinary wise if we electrify versus go with gas?
Right. So when we talk about electrification, we're talking primarily induction cooking. The old coils are awful to cook on, so I would never advocate for those. But induction cooking uses electromagnetic currents to actually heat the pan up, which means there's no thermal sources. So what you're going to see is a much cooler kitchen. You're going to be much more relaxed, much more comfortable. You're not going to have those noxious gases, those byproducts, the carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, soot, smoke, things like that just will be a thing of the past, which in turn means your building is going to be working cooler. You're not going to be paying more in electricity for your air conditioning, although you will be paying more for electricity for your house. That also means your gas bill is now down to zero. So it kind of balances itself out. As far as prep goes, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, food is food. All we're doing is changing how the pan gets hot.
Okay.
So it's that simple. We just think that instead of burning natural gas, which puts all these particulate matters into your home, which means children, elderly, those who suffer from lung diseases like asthma and things like that, and now those who are survivors of COVID, we know that it attacks the lungs. So we're looking to create a better culinary ecosystem where people can go back to enjoying cooking as opposed to it being something that causes them harm.
Man, and I couldn't imagine doing that. When I was 16, I cooked in a lot of different restaurants trying to get my skills. And I remember those summer days in the kitchen, brother, and how hot they were
It's
getting.
tough.
I feel like it's almost a point of pride that you survived that, right? And if now we
Yeah.
go to induction, wow, could you imagine the new people coming in? They might not get to experience those 120-degree kitchens,
And that's my goal. I don't want people to have to go through what we did. Like like you hit the nail on the head. It was a point of pride. I remember being on the line and my thermometer in my chef coat would read 135, and then in between rushes we'd go upstairs to try to puke or whatever because it was so hot.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to have to go through that. So like I sit on a culinary advisory board for a culinary school here in Pittsburgh, and I speak to students and I say, hey, what do you guys want to do when you graduate? What's your goal? What do you want to do with your career? A lot of them say they want to go work for this 3 Michelin star restaurant, or they want to go to France or somewhere in Europe or in Asia and train under this chef. And like the rest of the world, they're about 20, 30 years ahead of schedule. Like they're all on board with electric cooking. So when you're going to a 3 Michelin star restaurant, it is incredibly high paced, it's incredibly fast. And if you walk in there and don't even know how to work the equipment, you're not going to get the job. So I want these culinary students, and I want any new chef coming into the industry to be on equal footing with our brothers and sisters overseas. And
Mm.
I want us to work in an environment that, you know, creates a healthier way of cooking, not just to say healthy food, but also what's going into our bodies.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's my goal. I hope they never get to experience what we experience because it's tough, and that's why I think we're seeing the worker shortage. People just realized I don't want to do that.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, it is hard work in that. And speaking of that, we know I've been calling you Chef Chris in that podcaster. You're creating this movement for healthier, not only cooking, but healthier for the cooks itself. In that, what's the journey for Chef Chris to get to where you are today? Because you're doing a plethora of things. And I think finding out about the journey and steps in that is really interesting for students to hear about.
Well, I mean, my journey started off really small. So I'm a first generation American.
Okay.
I grew up not knowing my father. I grew up in poverty. We were at time during my childhood, we were even homeless. We lived in the back of a cafe like my entire freshman year of high school. So like we came from nothing. So food was a way that allowed me to kind of live outside my means and just to imagine a career, imagine a life away from what I was dealing with. I'm sure some of your students have dealt with, gang activity and things like that. Those are things that I dealt with as well. So they're not alone. And if I can do it, they can do it as well.
Mm.
I pushed and I pushed and I pushed and I kept working at what I did. And at my first job, it was 15. I was a busboy
Mm.
for a restaurant, and I used my first paycheck to get a book from the Culinary Institute of America, which is like their big, thick cookbook. That's like it's not just a cookbook; it's like a textbook. And I wrote that thing from cover to cover, copying every word in it, so I can try to remember it, so I can be a chef because that's what I wanted to do. Um, by 19, I went to culinary school. I
Nice.
graduated with a bachelor's, and I was very, very proud of that. And then I got accepted to the Greenbrier, West Virginia, where I was an apprentice for a master chef, and I got to work with about 7 culinary Olympians, 3 other master chefs. I got to really experience a lot while I was there. And then from there, I kind of bounced around, just growing, meeting people, my reputation, my cuisine, my work ethic, until I got to Chatham University Eaton Hall, which was the world's first fully self-sustained university campus. And through hard work and diligence, I then was decided to take the scary but necessary sacrifice to open up this company. And I left my position in November and been doing this full time, trying to build the company up ever since. So it came with a lot of struggle, but I think that you know it was necessary because it gives me the motivation that like I know where I came from and I know that I don't want to go back. So
Wow.
I know I'm sure some of your students can relate to that. So it's important for me to talk about those things. I used to be ashamed of it when I was a kid, and now I treat it as a source of inspiration, a source of motivation to get me moving forward. So yeah, that's been my journey, and I just hard work.
I can tell. And then congratulations on all your
Thank you.
success and your growth. That is an incredible story. I love hearing that. With that in mind, with your growth and continuous pushing in that, for my high school students that might be hearing this right now, and I think your story alone was inspiring in that, are there any tips or skills you suggest that students consider to work on or grow or really push as they're getting older and looking for new opportunities in that?
Yeah, never stop reading, never stop asking questions, never stop working. Um, do the work now so that way later on you can relax. So mm, some of the things that I did was to make sure that whatever that I made sure that anybody around me didn't work as hard as I did. I pushed harder than them. I was first in, last out. Um, like when I would have 6 a.m. classes, I'd be there 5 a.m. working on knife cuts. When I was working in restaurants, my shift was 2 o'clock. I'd be there at noon to start prep. And when we closed at 11, I was out by midnight just to make sure that things were done properly.
Mm.
Even though I wasn't the manager, nothing like that. It was take pride in what you do, push harder than anybody else because people notice that.
Mm.
Yeah,
I think that's wonderful advice. Thank you for that. And
absolutely.
yeah, taking pride in anything we do, and agreed, pushing as hard as you can.
Yeah,
You're right. The cream rises to the top. People notice that right away, and
yeah, yeah.
that
I mean, I'll tell you,
emphasis.
when I was doing that at Monterey Bay, here in Pittsburgh while I was in culinary school, when I came back from the Greenbrier, I was 23 years old and I was offered the position of executive chef because people notice.
Mm.
So like, yeah, like, and I came back as a cook and I jumped 2 or 3 positions to be that executive chef. So um, people people would rather have the person who works hard than the person who's just next in line.
Understood and well said. Thank you for that. Well, Chris Chev, I appreciate it. You are a busy man, I know, with all your different jobs and that. Really quick, if any students are interested, what is the name of your podcast in case they'd
Uh,
like to hear or tune in more?
yeah, it's called Sustainable Overload. My host Chef Juice, who's also a rapper by the name of Xander Wayne. He's been a chef for, I don't know, close to a decade now. So he and I connected, through food, through sustainability, and we wanted to share that connection with everybody else. The whole point of the podcast is to kind of pull back that veil and say, sustainability a lot of times has this political aura around it when it's really just people like you and I just trying to make a difference, trying to make a better world for the people who come next.
That makes so much sense. I love that. All right. So, well, students, we want to, on behalf of myself and my students, Chef Chris, we want to thank you for your time. Congrats on all your success. Best of luck in growing this business. This is incredible. And hopefully we'll catch up with the rest of the world with our induction cooking skills and having a cleaner and healthier version of cooking for everybody.
Yes. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And everyone out there, stay positive. Only good things happen to people who are positive.